Hey guys, my name is Brett.
And I'm Brandon.
Welcome back to part two, special episode of Pitch Pass Podcast. Sorry for the little delay between the two uploads. Our audio ended up, I don't really know what happened with our audio between the two episodes, but it kind of sounded like we were both talking into an aluminum can. And we had some technical issues with the PC and power. So we just decided that we were going to re record.
Hey, and life happens. Life gives you lemons, so we're gonna make a podcast with
We're making a
lemons,
podcast with the lemons, absolutely.
as white men do. Now,
So,
uh,
wasting no amount of time, um, I think the last time that we talked a little bit about Matt Ryan going to the Colts.
yeah,
Um,
great signing, great trade for Indianapolis, going and getting Matt Ryan. They're eating a pretty big contract going forward. Atlanta's eating this year of Matt Ryan's contract, but going forward, he's going to be an expensive quarterback, but they needed the upgrade. It's good for them, good for Chris Ballard to get out from underneath of Carson Wentz and to really just upgrade that team as a whole.
yeah, I can say with confidence, I think this is the best quarterback that they've had since Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, without question. Philip
Oh,
Rivers is way past his prime. Carson Wentz did not play super well. They had a stretch, but like if you want to argue that a quarterback was great playing in stretches, then we can look at Baker Mayfield and say he was the elite for a year, you know?
yeah. Well, yeah, if you want to piece together like the end, like Baker Mayfield's like rookie year with like bits and pieces of this past season and like the year prior, sure. We
Yeah.
can piece together we can make Carson Wentz look real good if we want to just piece together any like 16, 17 game stretch if we really want to.
Um, One thing that
Um,
was new information from the last episode to when we recorded, Stephon Gilmore signing with the Colts. That's a huge acquisition.
Especially since one they get one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL and Stephon Gilmore,
Hmm.
fantastic man to man corner. But it helps a lot because they just pulled off a trade right after the Carson Wentz trade, trading their corner Rock Ya-Sin for edge rusher Yannick Ngakwe
Hmm.
from the Raiders. So it's great because they essentially got Yannick Ngakwe and Stephon Gilmore for and got rid of Rock Ya-Sin. Like
Yeah.
that is just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I think they really bolstered their defense in the offseason. I'm going to be interested to see what they're going to do in the draft, and you might get a sneak peek of what they're going to do in the draft from our mock draft. We'll see how we can do with that. But I really think that the Colts
Not
should
from
be
our mock
favored.
draft.
What's up?
Not from our mock draft. The Colts traded their
Oh
draft
shoot, yeah,
pick.
we are just doing first round. Yeah. That's true. That's
We
true.
just did the first round today, guys. Sorry, not too big of a mock draft, but it did show that the Colts did pay a price for Carson Wentz.
True. And
They did pay a price, and it's his first round pick this year.
if you are in our Discord, we'll probably go into some of our later round draft picks and kind of what we think is going to happen second, third. But for this episode, we're just going to really focus on the first round and see what happens there. As we're approaching the draft, we're definitely getting into that smokescreen season of teams kind of trying to give out those false signals like, oh hey, we're definitely not going to draft a quarterback, or oh hey, we want to draft up, or we want to move down. And it's kind of hard to tell what's real and what's fake, but you can safely assume that don't believe anything that you hear at this point in
Yeah,
time.
and it even starts at the top with the number one overall pick. There's been so much noise around the pick.
Hmm.
It was initially the first, like before this college football season even started, the projected number one overall pick went from Kayvon Thibodeau to Aiden. Then, as the season progressed, after Kayvon Thibodeau got hurt, then it became Aiden Hutchinson. Then it was back to Thibodeau. Then it was Aiden Hutchinson again. Then it was Ike Ekwonu for a little bit.
And then Evan
And
Neal was in
that
there too, for sure.
Evan Neal was in there for a little bit. Charles Cross was there for a little bit. All three of the top three tackles.
Yeah.
And then again, it was Aiden Hutchinson again for a little bit. And now we're back to it. And then Trayvon Walker started picking up steam. Then Aiden Hutchinson again, and now we're right back to Ike Ekwonu. It's just so crazy, all the different rumors and tweets and alleged sources we see, GMs and owners disagreeing on who they should draft, and just full this chaos in every single NFL war room, even though there's not. It's just teams just trying to
Just smoke screens. I think it's really funny because
manipulate the market to their advantage.
everything's always like coming out anonymously at this point because like you don't want a team like a GM or a coach to say like, "Oh man, we're definitely not drafting a quarterback because like I think all the quarterbacks in this draft are shit," and then drafting a quarterback and it's like, "Coach, why you were talking shit about me? You can't be like, "Oh, I was just smoke screening, sorry," you know."
All the
So
smoke screening.
everybody's doing that anonymity.
Coach may not be smoke screening. There's some coaches that thought their quarterback they drafted was trash. The heck, Jay Gruden never wanted fucking Kirk Cousins.
Well, was he wrong for that?
Hey, Kirk Cousins has been was the best Redskin slash Commanders quarterback they've had in a very long time.
Yeah, that's true.
It is hard pressed. You are hard pressed to say someone who is better than Kirk Cousins in that uniform.
Well, I think that there were definitely players that were better, but they just didn't have any form of longevity, and I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Okay, outside of Robert Griffin.
Yeah. R.I.P. knee. Yeah. R.I.P.
R.I.P. to the entire leg.
Oh, Alex Smith's leg too. Yeah. Shit, I guess.
Yeah, that's hey. And also Joe Burrow's knee. That is where lower bodies go to die.
Yeah, there's so many players that have gotten injured on that field, man.
FedEx Field is cursed. And I don't know why.
Well, speaking of the Commanders, there is a, I guess like looking at the draft right now. There's kind of like a duality in the approaches that teams are taking. And there are some teams that like understand that they have the quarterback of the future and they're really fine with rebuilding, like the Chiefs. The Chargers are also doing this. There's a bunch of teams that are like, hey, let's grab some of these picks so we can get a bunch of young talent. We can start rebuilding. We can always trade the picks if we need to, if there are any players that we want to pick up, but we can also just use those picks to develop some players. Um, and we're kind of seeing like the duality of that, but in terms of the Commanders, in terms of the Titans and the 49ers, and even the Seahawks, there are some young wide receivers going on the market.
Some
They
guys,
all want to get paid.
yeah, a bunch of guys who aren't first round wide receivers, all from the same draft class that are all trying to get paid, and they're all on the last couple of years of their contract. They don't have a fifth year option. They've all produced for 3 seasons. Like they're ready.
Yeah, I think it should be noted.
You don't want to play on the tag. You
Mhm,
don't want to play without a year left in your contract because football's a violent sport. You could get hurt.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's why there's such a big push for that guaranteed money right now. Um,
Yeah, which the this is one of the things that the NFL is really far behind other leagues in when it comes to guaranteed money.
mhm,
The NBA has had it for such a long time.
yeah.
It's just kind of crazy that the NFL is just now catching up.
So, I think it is important to talk about the health of the players in terms of like what we've seen. Debo is able to stay healthy and basically not full time play two different roles, but he was able to fill two different roles as needed, and was very productive at both of them. Um,
Yeah,
DK is obviously just a physical monster. Terry McLaurin is great. I can't really say much for their quarterback situation. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a great young talent, and I think that he has great potential. I think he just needs like consistency at that position.
yeah, he needs consistency at quarterback. But of
Hmm.
all these wide receivers, AJ McLaurin,
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown,
Yeah.
DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. Deebo Samuel, he has been the most consistent throughout his entire career,
Yeah.
being available on the field and also putting up production with the worst quarterback play out of all four of them.
Yeah. I think the biggest knock that you could really give to AJ Brown is just hoping that he'll stay healthy. And I guess that's not really a knock because I mean it is, but injuries happen, and we've had some in the past couple of years, especially with COVID and with like how training camps have looked different and how practice facilities and how teams have had to adapt. We've definitely seen a lot more unfortunate injuries because guys haven't been able to be as accustomed to the fields that they're playing on. They haven't gotten as much playtime with their teams. So we're seeing some of the more unfortunate injuries in situations that might not have otherwise been presented.
And didn't
Um,
we have like 20 something ACLs again last year?
Something like that. Yeah, it was, and you also have to factor in that you did add a game, um, but yeah,
Okay,
it's just terrible.
but a lot of those injuries came early on in the season.
Yeah,
The extra game didn't really affect it.
yeah, that's true. I mean, when you get to that final game, there are some starters being rested for the teams that have already clinched the playoffs or have clinched a certain seed. So yeah,
There's a lot of yeah, like that last week, like there's a shit ton of players there sitting. Like if you're a team that also is trying to not hurt your draft stock and you don't want a star player to get hurt for next year, you're not going to play him.
true.
Like, let's hypothetically, if Christian McCaffrey was good to go for the 17th game
Hmm.
last year, there's no chance in hell Carolina was going to play him.
No, I mean unless he needed to meet like 10 more yards for an incentive or something like that. But even then,
So,
I mean, coming off of an injury like that, they probably wouldn't have let him.
yeah, unless if you're like going for a record,
Hmm.
like that's probably about it.
Yeah, it was
Especially
like
if you're an
in the game with the Ravens last year, right, where they needed to keep up the certain amount of rush
record.
yards. Yeah,
They literally did it and lost the game, and I don't even think that they got the record.
yeah. I think they tied it, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they tied it for
Yeah,
most 100-yard rushing games in a row, which
yeah.
is
I mean, it's still
I
definitely an achievement, especially with a younger team. Like, I think it's
it's a
great and it's cool, but
great achievement, and I think it's a great achievement for the coaching quarterback tandem that is Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh
yeah.
because the run game is so just a part of what makes that team go.
Hmm.
It's literally their entire offense is the run game. It's Lamar Jackson. Their offense might as well just be Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews.
Yeah, basically, yeah, that's completely true. I mean, shit. And then on the defensive side, they had nothing in their secondary because everybody kept getting injured.
Everyone kept getting injured, and it was literally like backup players and Marlon Humphrey running around an entire game.
Yeah, and the running back core was just devastated.
Yeah, when you're having fucking Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray come off the street
Yeah,
and start for you, there's an issue. They should be in a better spot this year.
they should be. I hope they are, especially in terms of their secondary.
Yeah, their secondary is gonna be fine. Especially Marcus Peters, because Marcus Peters, like his injury doesn't really scare me because the way he plays the game, he's more trying to read receivers and
Hmm.
trying to read the quarterback's eyes
Yeah,
and off tape and like tendency and go through risk that way than necessarily trying to lock up someone physically, which
something.
hopefully he's still capable of.
Yeah, I believe he is. And having that off season and having some time after, I mean during and after last season, I think he'll be fine, ready to go this year.
I
Um,
do think it's a good thing for the Ravens as a whole, though, because it allowed them to get a lot of playing time for for some young secondary players.
yeah.
They paid dividends this year because they were pretty. They hung with some good receiving cores
Oh yeah, for sure. I
at
think
times.
something important to note, and this is something that I need to acknowledge. Um, I haven't been as high on Lamar Jackson as other people have, especially you. I know you are a massive Lamar fan.
I am.
And it's not that I don't believe in him or his playability or his like upside. I just have concerns about his health. But I think that Lamar is a top 4 quarterback in the league with top 3 upside. Um, I think that just when you take away his run ability, when you pressure him to throw, he gets a little nervous. He gets a little panicky. So that's my one knock is I'm just not sure if he can stay healthy, and that's not in terms of like injury. That's just in terms of physically, like with COVID and with the flu and with everything that he had going on. I love Lamar. I think he is probably the most dynamic and fun quarterback to watch, and I am a diehard Chiefs fan, so you know that means something coming from me. Um,
I,
but
I think
I
you
just
give
want to see him
Lamar,
stay healthy.
if you give Lamar a legit alpha wide receiver one that can get open,
Hmm.
I think he could become the best player in the
Ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know if I over
NFL.
Patrick Mahomes. I don't know about that.
I think I would take him over Mahomes if his offense over Mahomes, like a Mahomes Chiefs offense, if he had a legit, true X wide receiver to go with Mark Andrews.
Okay,
Because he doesn't like the Ravens passing game last year was not great.
non-existent. It was Mark Andrews. That was it.
It was Mark Andrews, and then granted, Marquise Brown had a bunch of big plays, had a
Yeah, but
good
it was only
year,
big plays and nothing else.
yeah, pretty much just a big play guy. But it Lamar also having to like buy time, and it looked like a bunch of scramble drills, and there was a bunch of plays, especially against the Dolphins, where you can see a bunch of guys just sitting in the same spots in zone. Not the receiver's fault. You can
Yeah,
obviously see it's the play call. And I don't know why some of these plays existed in Greg Roman's passing game last year.
yeah,
Did like you just them just flooding the spot with too many receivers and essentially having one guy in zone coverage be able to cover two receivers. Oh, great! We'll see who Lamar can throw to, especially with some backup offensive linemen in there. Great.
Spoiler alert. It's only Mark Andrews. It's that's it.
Only
That's
Mark
it.
jump balls,
Yeah,
and or Lamar just breaking a million people until eventually Marquise Brown gets open,
yeah. I mean
or for that,
the
or the 3 plays a game where Rashad Bateman's ISO'd up on one side and can like catch a 15-yard pass.
yeah,
I mean, pass. Because he's actually a decent receiver. I just don't think he's like a true alpha number one wide receiver. I think he's a good complementary number two wide receiver.
yeah.
I think Marquise Brown is just at this point cheaper Christian Kirk.
Oh yeah. I mean pretty much yeah. Any like mid upper tier receiver that's not like a wide receiver one, that is pretty much just a cheaper Christian Kirk.
Yeah, a deep threat from the slot.
Yeah.
Essentially, those guys that are just a straight deep threat from the slot that can be valuable in an offense, especially in today's NFL offense, especially
Hmm.
when you're trying to a lot of too high coverage. But when you're only a one trick, two trick pony,
Hmm.
how much is that going to really move the needle?
Yeah.
With that as an individual player, you and like with NFL players, you especially wide receivers, you want them to be a chess piece. You
Yeah.
want them to
You
a
want him
guy
to
that
be able to block. You want him to be able to come out of the backfield.
you want a guy that can like run every round the route tree. You
Hmm.
like you just like that's what you're looking for. You're
Yeah.
looking for like Monte Adams, a DeAndre Hopkins, a Tyreek Hill. Like these, like those are the type of guys you're looking for at the wide receiver position. And if you gave Lamar Jackson any one of those 3 guys, I think he would just absolutely take off.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um,
Or Kyler Murray took off as soon as he got DeAndre Hopkins.
yeah. In fairness, I think that Kyler was already a really
Kyler,
dynamic and talented quarterback, but I think if you give anybody DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, I think shit. If you give Baker Mayfield DeAndre Hopkins, he's gonna be putting up some decent numbers.
DeAndre Hopkins is just a jump ball machine. Even though he's
Absolutely.
DeAndre Hopkins really isn't that tall even. I think he's only like 6'1".
His like grip strength
He's,
is so underrated. I think
he's grip
people started with the Kyler Hail Murray, people kind of got more attention to D Hop's grip strength, but like, dude, if you look at the contested catches that he's been making for years, like, he is
He's
crazy.
and he's something else. He's so flexible too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why he can contort his body in so many ways, and he's still so strong. Why being flexible too?
that pass that he caught
Oh,
last no 2 years ago that didn't count,
mhm.
the one that was like between his legs behind him, that was
Yeah,
insane.
he's. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love his story, and I I think he's going to continue to be great with the Cardinals. It was
Hmm.
good that he ended up on a team with a quarterback that's a very good player because he spent so much of his career just like Terry McLaurin, with just shitty quarterback after
Yeah,
shitty quarterback in Houston until he finally had Deshaun Watson
yeah,
for like
and
a
then
year.
Bill
And
O'Brien refused to renegotiate his contract, even though he was definitely deserving of more money, and basically kicked him out to Arizona.
Steve Kai,
Yeah,
Mike essentially swindled Bill O'Brien.
yeah,
Anyone's curious, my Twitter header is Bill O'Brien
yeah.
just because I find it so fucking funny.
How badly he fucked over the Texans, and then just dipped.
Yeah, and just how bad like of a GM he is. It's hard that you see someone make these bad of trades that literally
Consistently.
everyone consistently that literally everyone sees coming.
um, so I guess what do you think? Speaking of receiver trades and getting rid of receivers, what do you think
Oh,
happens with these rookies?
breaking news: Melvin Gordon just re-signed with the Broncos. By the way, everybody.
Oh my God. What do you think of Melvin Gordon? I think they don't really need him.
Complimentary, but
I
he'll get 100 carries.
he's been workhorsed so much throughout his career,
Williams is going to get the majority of the carries in this offense.
as he should.
They they re-signed him so they wouldn't run Williams into the ground,
Hmm.
and they would have him ready for the playoffs. We're going to see probably an even split to start the year,
Hmm.
maybe even a little bit more Melvin Gordon at the beginning.
Yeah,
When we start to ramp up, that's if both players stay healthy as well. Before the
yeah.
asterisk in. But as soon as we start the season, start to ramp up, and we start to see get closer to the playoffs,
Hmm.
Broncos haven't secured that number one seed yet, or haven't like secured their division.
Hmm.
We're gonna be seeing Williams a lot at the end of the year. He's gonna be someone that wins people their fantasy championships.
Yeah, for sure. I think that most of the Broncos' offensive players are going to be. Basically, if you draft any player from the AFC West, you're doing a good thing this year.
Yeah, AFC West is gonna be just a light show.
It's gonna be 100% a gun show every game.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm here for it
yeah,
as someone
same.
who is watching with absolutely zero like bias and literally zero stake in the games. Perfect.
Yeah, same for sure.
Yeah, yeah, you have zero stake in the results of the AFC West.
Dude, I really think we could just see like the division winner and three wild cards at the AFC West. That's really I really think it's possible. I think that there's no one in the NFL outside of maybe the Rams that can match the firepower that the AFC West as a whole can put out.
Yeah, the division as a
Oh,
whole,
sorry,
like
sorry. Actually, the Bengals. Obviously, the Bengals can, but
the Bengals can, just because the Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow is just such a special connection.
hmm
And uh, outside the AFC West,
it's really just the Bengals. The Rams is arguable if they get OBJ back, but
I think probably I think the Cardinals.
I don't.
Cardinals probably could. Healthy Cardinals team, no Kyler Murray injury, healthy offensive line. I think they're keeping up offensively for sure.
Okay.
The
I
healthy DeAndre Hopkins too. The
hmm.
offense. Okay, I'm gonna put this out there. DeAndre Hopkins missed hella time last year, and the offense was still humming. It was still going.
That's true, but you lost one of your outside options in Christian Kirk. I think that's
Hey,
important.
they re-signed AJ Green.
Yeah, but AJ
They
Green
did
was awful last year.
okay. That's when he had to fill as a wide receiver one when D Hop went down. At this point, AJ Green's more of like a wide receiver 2, 3. He's a strictly possession guy.
Yeah. I think he's
Right
really just out there to draw coverage more than anything. Because if you saw that game ender, it was against Green Bay, right? With the end zone where he just bonk, didn't
battery.
even turn around. Yeah,
Um, Rondale Moore, I really think he's gonna pop off next year.
I could see
I
it.
think
I hope so.
Pocket Julio is
Hmm.
gonna pop off. He is.
Speaking of Julio, where do you think Julio ends up next year?
Ooh, I was actually been thinking about this a lot lately.
Hmm.
He's obviously waiting until after the draft
Yeah,
because there's no one that's gonna sign at this point. Kyrie Matthew, Clowney, Julio, they're all waiting until after the draft.
yeah.
Julio's gonna want
Melvin
to go to
Ingram too, right?
Melvin Ingram as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, what team would Julio really want to go to? Probably a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl this season.
The AFC West.
Go to
if
some team
if
in
he
the
went to the Chiefs, that would make me so happy.
if that's if you get any games out of him. That's the other thing. A
I,
team
I
that's
really think you could. I don't think expecting him to be wide receiver one is super unrealistic, but if you have Juju as your wide receiver one and you have Julio as your wide receiver two and MVS as your wide receiver three with Travis Kelsey at tight end, that's a damn good offense.
okay. If I'm the Chiefs, I would rather just draft a wide receiver in this draft class
Yeah,
and just not even waste the time of Julio Jones.
that's fair, but
Because I would rather
also
take the wide receiver now
he's
to
so
be with
big though.
board.
Just having that contested catch ability, like you don't need him to be the absolute freak athlete that he was in Atlanta. You don't need that. Um,
Was is my thing with Julio though. Like, is he still even that at all? Like,
well, just
he's
in terms of physical prowess, yeah, but in terms of like consistency, no. Uh,
yeah. Like,
he's
I think
definitely he's old now, right? Like how old is Julio?
I want to say him and
We
AJ
looked it
Green are
up.
the same draft class. Julio
Really?
Jones, yeah. Julio Jones, I'm pretty sure is
He's 33. Same
yeah,
age as AB.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
I thought he was older than AJ Green, but yeah.
same draft class. AJ Green just won a couple of picks before him. Um, Julio Titans. I think he resigns with Tennessee.
Okay. I
I
think
think
that
he
that would help them. I mean, having AJ
resigns.
Brown.
Julio, AJ Brown, and Robert Woods would be a pretty decent receiving core.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
What do you think happens with the other with all of these receivers that are looking to get paid? They all have the same agent. Obviously, everybody saw Christian Kirk get that money. I think the Jags really just did this more than anything else to fuck with the rest of the league because they know that they have.
because they had so much money to
Yep.
blow. And honestly, I think Christian Kirk is gonna have a good year next year.
Hmm.
I don't hate the contract that much. I looked back on it and I looked at the amount of money that the
Hmm.
Jags still had, and I was like, okay, I don't completely hate this.
Yeah,
And
but
I was thinking about like how he could play with Trevor Lawrence. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to like this a little bit more now.
yeah,
I I really like it for the Jags, and it would be really funny if they did just bring up the wide receiver price to fuck with people.
yeah. I really genuinely think they did. I think this was actually. I think it was a smart move to kind of change that market. And like you have all of these rookie receivers now that it's like I want to get paid. Send me somewhere I'm getting paid. Um, and
Yeah,
I think that all of these teams that are offering picks, like the Jets are just fucking desperate. The Jets are like, we need anything to keep us in contention. Like, give us Deebo, we'll give you the first overall. Give us DK, we'll give you
I,
the first overall. And these teams are like, dude, no, fuck you, Jets.
the Jets have offered supposedly the Jets have offered the 10th overall pick for
Te-
Debo. They haven't offered four.
Everybody.
They haven't offered four for Debo.
Well, they offered They offered for DK as well.
Yeah, they offered they've offered number 10 for
Yeah.
both Deebo and
Sorry,
DK.
I meant
They haven't
their
offered
first pick. Yeah,
they just haven't
separately.
offered pick number 4 overall though.
Yeah.
That's that's the one thing. That tells me how it tells me that they do have a couple players in mind at 4
Hmm.
and that none of them are a wide receiver.
Yeah. I mean, I really think you'll see in our mock draft, but I really think that Sauce is probably, if he doesn't go in the top three, then I think that's probably where they're gonna go with that pick.
Yeah, I think with that pick, it's gonna be Sauce, or if Kayvon Thibodeau ends up down there,
Yeah.
one of the two. It could be
Um.
either one. And honestly, if it's either way it goes, I think the Jets are in a good spot with this draft class.
Yeah.
I don't think they could honestly. I think it would be so hard for the Jets to fuck up this class
Hmm.
because the players that they could possibly have at the top 10 to 20 on their board
Yeah.
all align so much with their needs. Fucking throwing the start, it. They will almost have to try to fuck it up.
True. Well, I mean, it's the Jets. It's very possible.
I mean, it is extremely possible. That's why it could also be very frustrating. One of my
Yeah.
one of my old GMs at a restaurant I used to work at, he was from Brooklyn, New York. Huge Jets fan. He hated draft night because
Yeah.
he was saying, I quote, every every first round pick is a bum.
Yeah.
Every every first round pick the Jets pick is a bum. And I was like, all right, all
I
right,
mean,
Pete.
not wrong.
Not not wrong is right.
The Jets have made so many poor decisions. I understand that like you're in a difficult division, right? And there haven't been very many years where you've had like winning records. So like you've had pretty early draft picks for a
You got
while.
the shit kicked out of you by Tom Brady for like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have Josh Allen that's there to bring it back, and you have, yeah, I think that's it's going to be one of the most interesting divisions. Maybe not like the most entertaining, but I think it'll be the most interesting. I think Josh Allen's just going to fucking cook everybody. But I early pick right now. I think that the Bills and Broncos are my favorites to come out of the AFC. As hard as that is for me to say, it probably between those two teams, I can't really see many other people. I think that the Chiefs are always going to be in contention with Patrick Mahomes, just because I think he's the best quarterback in the league. Um, I think that the Browns have probably the most completely talented roster in the AFC, both offensively and defensively. Um, I think the only rosters that really are somewhat matching are Rams, 49ers, Broncos, but yeah.
I honestly, for me, I think the AFC is very competitive,
Hmm.
has a lot of high level play, but I think for the most part it's pretty wide open for like the top couple teams.
Oh yeah.
Like I think my favorite my favorite like dark horse to come out of the AFC
Hmm.
is the Raiders. I think the Raiders
Raiders.
actually have a sneaky good roster.
Oh yeah. I mean, with the addition of Davante Adams, you already have like talent on
Sneaky
offense,
good.
but
I think their defense is better than people will probably want to give them credit for. That
yeah,
offense is going to be explosive this year.
yeah. With what they did last year, with the coaching situation last year, and with losing players to just stupid fucking decisions that they made, I
And
think
with a much better head coach with Josh McDaniels than what
absolutely.
they had over the course, right, since Gruden's first run around there.
Yeah.
Like, it's good that the Raiders finally have a coach that actually knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
They're a good dark horse. The Ravens, I think, are another really interesting team that can come out of the AFC.
Hmm.
One, I love Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Two, they're getting back so many players. They're getting
True.
back 20-something players from injury last year.
Yeah,
Like, this is
it's just crazy. I think they were probably the most injured team last year.
between them, the Titans, and the Saints.
Yeah.
Three most injured teams last year. And the Ravens were still competitive. They still like hung with playoff teams.
Yeah. I mean, largely in part thanks to Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. That's really all they had going on the offense. That's it. And their
Yeah.
defensive line was good
Their
enough to
defensive
make up for what they lacked in
missing
the secondary. Yeah.
like all the injuries in the secondary suck. Like it just happened.
It would
Like,
have devastated pretty much any other team. Yeah.
the, the practice where they literally lost Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters
Yeah. That.
on like back-to-back plays.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah. For real.
But I think I really I really think they're gonna shock some people of how good they're gonna be out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because Lamar Jackson's putting in work this offseason. He's not even thinking about his next contract.
Yeah.
He
I respect the
just
fuck out of that.
lays focused in.
I respect that so much, especially with your style of play. Like you have to know that being that largely dual threat quarterback, you
Mhm.
have to know like your probability of getting injured. And I know it's not as high as Kyler because Lamar has some size on Kyler, but
Yeah.
just knowing that with your style of play, you could get injured anywhere, and if you do get injured in some way that's largely detrimental to your mobility, your agility, it's going to hurt your value long term. So him being so willing to be so team friendly with his contract and with uh, everything. The reason that I gained a lot, I already had a lot of respect for Lamar Jackson, both as a person and a player, but looking at Lamar versus Kyler, Lamar being so willing to work with his team
Mhm.
on his contract when he's making a lot less money than Kyler is, and Kyler being such a baby about it, you just kind of understand like Kyler has a much higher likelihood of getting injured, right? Like Kyler's smaller, and with the way that he scrambles
Kyler,
versus the way that Lamar scrambles, it's definitely different.
Kyler
Um,
has been over the past like 2 years.
mhm.
Like Kyler Murray has played her or missed more games than Lamar.
Yeah,
Like I mean that's just the truth of it.
yeah,
I do like that Kyler did come out and say that he wants to stay in Arizona. He wants to win a Super Bowl in Arizona. I I would rather him handled that situation like Lamar is, to
yes,
where Lamar Strip said he's not focused on the contract, he's focused on winning a Super Bowl. I wonder if part of that comes with his mother and him are who are his agents. Like
yeah.
he doesn't have like he represents himself.
Well, the other
And
thing is with yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
he's not someone like waiting for their cut of the pie.
Yeah, I Kyler's making what like somewhere between $7 and $9 million a year because of where he was drafted at, and Lamar's only making like two. Um,
He was like the last pick of the
yeah,
first round.
he was the last pick of the first round. And
You got love that he makes so much money in endorsement deals probably.
oh, for sure. But I don't think it's about that. I don't think that's what he's concerned about. He wants to prove everybody wrong. I think the not too bad for running back mentality is really just what motivates him. And to have a coach that believes in you so wholeheartedly, I think that he is the best thing that could have happened to that organization. And I think that building the offense around him, again, barring that he stays healthy, I think that's probably the best direction that the Ravens could have gone in.
Also, this may just sound like a no shit thing, but I think Lamar just fucking loves playing football.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
you can tell. Snapping dudes' ankles is like he's just a living highlight reel.
all right. So back to the wide receivers. I don't think any of them get traded. I think
Really?
this is. I don't. I think none of them get traded before the draft happens or
Oh,
even
before
undrafted.
the draft, yeah. Um,
I think
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think Deebo Samuel is going to get traded at all.
Okay.
I think he's more likely to play for the 49ers again
Yeah.
and possibly get extended.
Hmm.
I could see AJ Brown maybe get traded.
Yeah, I, I
Maybe.
I think Terry McLaurin's the most likely to get traded out of all of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Depends on how he does with ones.
Yeah,
I
I think he's the most likely to want to move on, I guess is probably what I should have said.
Guess he should.
Yeah.
The one should be forcing a trade more than he is.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that too. But hey, he could just be trying to wait out his contract and just sign somewhere in free agency too.
Hmm. And that's, I respect that. I
Which
think he's been such a difference maker for that wide receiver core. Like, just being present regardless of all of the shit going on, and like being such a to be a captain so early and to be that difference maker in the locker room. Like, I have never heard anything negative said about him. I heard that he's such a hard worker. I think he's a great overall guy. I love him. I love what I've heard about his character. Um, yeah.
and like I don't know, he'll make more money if
Hmm.
he just honestly goes like just waits it out one season
Yeah.
and he can hit free agency without getting the tag. Just the thing, I don't think the Commanders would have let him without tagging him first.
Yeah.
Which at that point you're also fighting how old you are as a wide receiver because Terry McLaurin is a little bit older of a player.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I hope that Terry McLaurin gets away from that Washington team because I don't think Carson Wentz is good.
Yeah. I
I think
think I think he can be good. He's just not consistent at all.
he's literally just the DeAndre Hopkins situation before he got traded to the Cardinals and before Sean Watson got there. It's just
Yeah.
gonna be a bunch of shitty quarterback after shitty quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, but
I think DK is the least likely to be traded. Um,
yeah, no chance.
Debo is the next least likely, but I do think that he's very unhappy with where he's at with the team. I don't think that he's unhappy with the team per se, but I think he's unhappy with the role that they're asking him to fill. Yeah.
I think he would have no issue with the role
Hmm.
if he was getting paid a little bit more.
Yeah.
If he was making like let's say like 25, 27 mil a year,
Hmm.
it'd be fine.
I agree.
It's hard. It would be hard to fit that in,
Yeah.
but the Bucs could definitely make it work.
I
If
mean,
they
I think he's
get rid
worth
of
it though.
that, and then you can get rid of Jimmy G's contract, that's 20 mil right there. You can make up the other 5 to 7 by like restructuring a contract or two. Like you can definitely make it happen.
I think yeah, I think the most likely move would be Terry McLaurin. I think he probably will. He seems like a good guy. I think he's going to wait out the contract. And then I would love to see him go to the Chiefs. I love the role that he plays. I love his consistency, love his work ethic. AJ Brown, I really, really hope he can stay healthy because I love him. I think obviously he is very physically gifted. I think DK is the most physically gifted out of all of them. Um,
Yeah.
but AJ Brown is a big, strong receiver, and I think that he is really capable of being that wide receiver one if he can stay healthy.
I think it's kind of funny because there's definitely superlatives with all four of them because I think there's definitely areas that one of them is better than the other three at. Like DK Metcalf is probably the most like physically developed and like most physically like imposing one out of the four.
Hmm.
And Terry McLaurin is the most consistent
Yeah.
out of the four. AJ Brown is probably the best overall package
Hmm.
out of the four. Probably the best route runner as well.
Nah.
You said
Yeah.
probably the best overall package. And then Deebo Samuel is probably the best athlete out of all of them with the ball in his hands.
He's the most flexible for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and you're gonna see like with this draft season. I'm so happy I haven't heard it as much. People trying to compare players to Deebo Samuel
Yeah.
because players like that don't exist very often. Players like Deebo Samuel and Cordero Patterson,
Hmm. I
And will come
love
around.
CDP. I love him.
Same. Like, and also Percy Harvin a couple years ago. Like,
Hmm.
you don't see players do this very often. It's
I
rare.
The only
It
comp that I think is fair for Debo would be Tyreek Hill, but they even that is
different.
different. It's Tyreek is much more of the speedster, whereas Debo's much more of like that flexible player that like the threat of Debo is that he can do anything. Tyreek, it's just like don't let him get past you; he'll burn you, so you have to scheme around that. But Debo, you just don't know what he's going to do.
Even with the ball in their hands, like Deebo can run through you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Tyreek Hill's not going to try to truck you.
No, he's gonna run
Tyreek
past
Hill is
you.
going to try to like, run around you somehow
Yeah,
or try to make you come to him.
for sure.
I don't think any of them get traded or moved. I think their teams are just. I think teams are going to weigh the draft capital you could give up
Hmm.
together with the amount of money you're going to have to pay to extend all these wide receivers because
Yeah.
that's something else. If you trade for these guys, you have to also know have a plan.
Yeah.
You are going to extend them as well.
Yes. And then the
So
question becomes, if you're trading them, like, are you going to split the hit, or like, how are you going to? Do you want them to sign with the team for a longer deal and then try to trade for them, or do you want, you know,
here's the
it's
thing:
kind of.
all those receivers are such high caliber receivers too.
Hmm.
There's no way you're going to get a discount from the team you're getting them from for the salary cap. There's
Absolutely
no.
not. Yeah.
So it's just is it worth it compared to just going to the dartboard and using your draft pick and hopefully hitting on someone that could possibly be better than any of them for less money?
Yeah, for sure. And again, it comes back
Oh,
to do you want to take the Rams approach, or do you want to take like the Texans rebuild approach? Like, do you have a team that needs to win now? Do you have an aging quarterback that is elite, but that you need pieces to build around, or do you want to try to draft in the future and develop? That's just really where
I think
each team's at.
I think the perfect like parallel to these current wide receivers,
Hmm.
a situation that could work for both parties, the trading team and the team receiving, is the Bills and the fucking Vikings a couple years ago
Yeah.
when they traded Stephon Diggs to the Bills
Hmm.
and Minnesota used that pick and drafted Justin Jefferson.
Yes. Yes.
Because the Bills were able to unlock everything with Josh Allen.
Hmm.
Stephon Diggs is the number one wide receiver and had a career year there. The Minnesota Vikings got Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver from his draft class,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it just turned out for him. It
Yeah.
turned out well for both sides, and you could see how it worked for both sides. And that could happen with some of these teams in this situation. They just have to find a perfect situation to trade these wide receivers to.
Yeah.
Or, as we're going to go to in our next segment, you can just draft your own wide receiver and just say and just try to rock with them for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Which there's a couple of good wide receivers in this class,
Oh, for sure.
Jamison Williamson, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Olave.
Hmm. I love Chris Olave. Well,
Right.
speaking of our next segment, are you just about ready to move on for our mock draft?
Yes, sir.
All right. What we're going to do is we are going to take just about a 1 minute break, just so we can gather our notes real quick. So we will be right back. Stay tuned, and we will be back in just about 60 seconds. Alrighty, guys, welcome back. We are back from our short break. Notes have been gathered. We discussed a couple things. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. With our mock draft, we did one interesting thing. We did propose a trade beforehand. We talked about this, and we are swapping picks 5 and 12. So we are swapping Minnesota for New York's first pick. New York Giants' first pick.
So the Giants are now picking at 7 and 12, and
Mhm.
Minnesota is picking at 5.
So you are picking up the fifth pick, and I'm picking up the 12th pick.
Yes, sir.
So that's how we're going to order things. Are you ready to begin?
And I am ready.
All right.
And you have the first pick, my friend. Who are the Jacksonville Jaguars going to be taking?
So I know there's been a lot of smoke screening going on with the first overall pick. There's a lot of smoke screening going on with every pick, but I really think that um, with the first overall pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, I believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars draft Aiden Hutchinson.
Here we go. Aiden Hutchinson, defensive lineman, University of Michigan. It's in.
I
Yeah.
think he's a great leader. I think that the effort he puts in on every play, I think that he is probably the best first overall pick that the Jags could get. So I think that that's probably the pick that they're going to go with.
And honestly, great leader, plays very hard, great technician. Yeah, that's all I can really say about Aiden Hutchinson. I could definitely great building block to build like a real future around there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm here with the Detroit Lions, and I'm also gonna go with a guy who I think is amazing for culture,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna go with Ahmad Sauce Gardner,
Wow.
cornerback. I
Okay.
think I think at worst he's your number one corner going forward. It would be awesome if you could all if Okuda can come back
Hmm.
from his injury and actually play well in the NFL, then you could have
Yeah.
a great quarterback tandem. If not, Ahmad Sauce Gardner is the best quarterback in this draft class. Very smart. Doesn't need he is a good athlete. He ran in like the 4.5s, but he doesn't need to be the way he plays the game. He's just so smart.
Hmm.
Great, best press corner in the entire draft, and didn't allow a single touchdown his entire college career.
I think that's really a fantastic pick. I think that he is really, really talented. He has a lot of confidence. He's obviously had some ins with the NFL. I was listening to the interview with him the other day where he was talking about how J Ram's his guy, and that during the Rams Bengals game, he was texting him about texting him about coverage and stuff. So I think that's a fantastic pick. I think that's really, really. I'm a little surprised, but that's an amazing pick for the Lions. That would be a steal at number two.
I would really like it for them at number two. You get a grinder, and that's just exactly what they want there.
Hmm.
It's someone who's just gonna grind it out. All right, now it's up with you with the Houston Texans. The Texans are kind of an easy one because literally everything's a need.
Yeah. So I guess with the Texans, you could really look at this two ways. You could go with the value of the player. You could look at who is the best available player, or
Mhm.
you could look at addressing a long-term like leader and someone that your team could really benefit from. The Texans are really in a rebuild stage, and they have multiple first-round picks coming up over the next few years. Um, but I think honestly, probably their best bet would be going Kayvon Thibodeau here.
Kayvon Thibodeau. Kayvon Thibodeau is my favorite edge in this class. He's
Hmm.
my number one edge in this class, actually. I I think he's amazing. I think he's an explosive athlete. He's a technician. I If it wasn't for him liking chess and day trading cryptocurrency and him getting hurt and missing a couple of games at Oregon,
Yeah.
he he would he probably would be the number one overall pick. I I hate all this stuff that just started getting brought up about him that just more feels like hearsay to bring down his draft stock.
Hmm. I
And
think.
now
Oh,
get
sorry.
off my.
I think the Texans. It surprised me that they weren't terrible on defense last year. Um, they were. I mean, at least considering what they were dealing with. Um,
They weren't
so
like historically terrible.
yeah. I was honestly pleasantly surprised with how non-poorly they performed. I don't want to say that they performed great by any standard, but um, their defense kept them in games that they shouldn't have been kept in. And I think with your young quarterback that you drafted, I can't see them drafting another quarterback this year. Um, they really need help with every position. So I think that getting a young defensive stalwart um, that can help you start that rebuild would be great for them. So KT off the board.
We have KT off the board. All right. So I'm picking here at 4 for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
You just took Kayvon Thibodeau,
Yep.
so that's who I really wanted with this pick. So I'm gonna finally give I'm gonna give the Jets the best cornerback they've had since Darrell Revis. I'm gonna give him Derek Stingley Jr.
Oh shoot,
Derek
man.
Stingley Jr. cornerback LSU, great great athlete, probably the most athletic corner in this class.
Mm-hmm.
Great start to his college football career.
Mm-hmm.
That 2019 year at LSU when they won the national title, he led all defensive players in college in WAR created.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the metric that's wins above replacement,
Mm-hmm.
generated more than any other defensive player in college that year at 18, 19 years old, which is a really good sign.
That's crazy.
I get it. His production kind of fell off this couple years at LSU, but he was hurt, and also the COVID year happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't hold it against him.
He's only 20.
Yeah, he's a young dude.
Yeah.
Like he's a young guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he's super athletic, and his tape that he put on as a true freshman, it's good enough for me to take a risk on as a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I mean, considering like just coming out of high school being that talented, you definitely have time to develop him. Going to a team that needs a corner, needs some of that defensive help, I think that's a steal for the Jets. I know that the Seahawks had their eye on him, and I know they need help at corner too. So I think that taking that early on is definitely a really good pick for the Jets because I don't think he'd be there later.
No, he wouldn't be there at 10. And also, there's also Carolina that would maybe take
Hmm.
him. Atlanta, if Atlanta could have paired him up with AJ Terrell, that would have been awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I if I was the Jets and I got Derek Stingley Jr. at 4, I wouldn't be sad about it.
No, for sure.
Okay, now on to the next pick. Since I negotiated this pick on behalf of the Vikings,
Hmm.
I will run it in for them. I think their roster
Hmm.
could be so good if it had the same level of play Kirk Cousins is at,
Hmm.
just for less money.
Yeah.
Just for far less money, because they need to replace a lot of things on this roster, and the roster's getting old. It's a veteran roster, and you need to start spending in free agency, and you need to re-sign players. And Justin Jefferson, eventually, his time is going to come up where you need to re-sign him, and you're not going to be
Hmm.
able to afford to. But now you are, and you're going to probably hopefully, an upgraded quarterback. I'm taking Malik Willis, quarterback out of Liberty. I think he is the most explosive out of all the quarterbacks in his class. Strong arm. I I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's like a Josh Allen type arm, Trey Lance type arm, because that's not true.
Yeah.
That gets that gets brought up with literally every draft class. I saw a comparison of him with like him or Zach Wilson,
Hmm.
and I think that's probably more or less it. I think him and Zach Wilson have about the same level of arm. Him, Zach Wilson, and like Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
To
I'm a
where it's
big
like a
Zach Wilson fan. I love Zach Wilson. I can't wait to see kind of how he develops and where he goes. I know the Jets are trying to piece together some offensive help for him. Um, I think that
And maybe I will in this draft later. Who
I
knows?
think Michael Carter has some great potential. I think that they have some decent receivers, and I think that they have some decent defensive pieces. They just really need some help, and I think that Malik
Help.
Willis to the Vikings is I think that's a really good trade for them. I think that was trading the 12th pick and their second round pick, which I believe was 42, something like that. So,
Yep, and their second round pick next year.
yep,
So essentially 2 seconds and a first to move from 12 to 5.
yeah. I think that's a great trade for both teams because I think it'll help the Jets add some of that depth that they need. Um, and I think
And
that the Vikings will get sorry the Giants get some of the depth that they need, and the Vikings draft their quarterback of the future. Yeah.
yeah, and also for the Giants, like you said, they need the depth more on this roster, and they're just looking to see what they have with Daniel Jones.
Hmm.
This this year is kind of Daniel Jones' audition year for this new regime,
Yeah.
and if he looks good, they're gonna keep him around, and if he doesn't, then they're gonna draft his replacement next year in a better quarterback class.
Yeah.
And for the Vikings, they can hopefully move on from Kirk Cousins' contract at the end of the season and go with possibly a more explosive quarterback. And I feel like what Malik Willis is going to add running the ball
Hmm.
is going to honestly be an even bigger upgrade than throwing the ball
Oh,
compared
for
to Kirk.
sure. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, they needed to move up to 5 compared to like 7, just because I don't believe anything I hear from Carolina if they're going to take a quarterback or not.
Yeah.
I rather just not risk it. If you're in love with Malik Willis, just go and get him.
Yeah. So I think
The
for
Giants are.
Carolina, sorry, what did you say?
If you love Malik Willis in this draft class, you trade up with the Giants at
Oh,
5 and
for
you go
sure.
get him.
Yeah, because you
I
know
think
the
that
Giants aren't going to take a quarterback, and you're hoping that the teams before that don't take a quarterback. You know that the Jags, there's a 99.9% chance that the Jags are not going to take a quarterback because you have Trevor Lawrence. You know, you never know because they could just be like, haha, but I feel like it would be the waste of their first overall pick. Um,
if any team in the top 4 would be Detroit.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that with that high of a pick, they would do that. So
But
I love the pick. I love the trade, and I
that
love the pick.
now the
Carolina,
Carolina
yeah.
is on the board.
Um, I think
I mean,
that Carolina is kind of in that situation where they have right, like you have Sam Darnold, right, and you have some you have a quarterback committee right now. You don't have like a quarterback one. Um, you're not entirely sure of the future you want to go in. I really think that in the long term, Carolina is going to trade for Baker Mayfield, but right now, I don't think they really care. I think that they believe that their quarterbacks that they can start right now are serviceable, and I think that they're going to build for the future. Um,
yeah, I think they're down to just rock with Sam Darnold.
yeah. Uh, Initially, when I did my first mock draft at 6, I had Evan Neal being taken here, but I think I'm going to go with Ikem Ikwanu.
Yeah, Keem Ikwanu.
I think that's probably. Uh, I love Evan Neal, and I think that Evan Neal might be better long term, but I think that Ikwanu might be a better fit for Carolina.
Yeah, especially for what they want to do in the run game.
Hmm.
Um, so go ahead and take the pick for 7 with the Giants, since you're going to also be picking for them at 12.
Okay. Oof, okay. So the Giants also need offensive line.
They need
They
edge
need
player,
edge and a linebacker, really. Um,
probably probably a slot corner, but you can wait for that.
you know what? I actually like taking Evan Neal here. I think that he would be great for the Giants. Um, the Giants obviously need help on offensive line. If you're planning on moving forward with Daniel Jones, then you're going to need to give him some help offensively. If you plan
Uh,
on keeping and extending Saquon, then
then actually help Saquon.
yeah,
All right. So now we Evan Neal to the Giants. I love the pick. He's my favorite. He's my favorite offensive lineman in this class. Just giant mauler of a human being.
yeah,
About 6'7", 340.
yeah. Not
It's
a
like
bad 40 time.
not a bad 40 time, very similar to Trent Brown. And a lot of room to put on more weight too. He's
Mm-hmm.
almost skinny, which is terrifying.
I know.
So now we're to Atlanta,
Mm-hmm. Eighth overall.
eighth overall. So there's a lot of options you can go with Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. You have to
Yeah.
consider Atlanta just traded away their quarterback and their wide receiver one is suspended for the
So
season. So
yeah, and I think even when Ridley comes back, he's going to be traded.
yeah.
I think Atlanta is going to take their number one wide receiver on the board with this pick.
Okay.
And I think that's the way I would even go with it too. Try to build up a foundation
Mm-hmm.
and let's see if we can at least make an offense this season
Yeah.
that kind of is hard to defend for people. I think let's add Garrett Wilson to the Atlanta
Wow.
Falcons.
Okay.
Get a wide receiver that can play at all three levels of the field and who has great hands,
Mm-hmm.
good route runner, great burst,
Yeah,
and just get
those
some
Ohio State receivers, man, they're
they're good.
they're all of the receivers coming out of Ohio State this year are great. Um,
Yeah, just get him the pair with Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson.
hmm
I like the fit with him to Atlanta a lot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I love the pick. I think that a lot of people are kind of underrating the receivers in this draft class because it is so deep at some of those positions that you know, like line and there's just a lot of depth overall in this class, and a lot of people are just overlooking this offensive
This,
class as a whole.
yeah, I think this the reason people are looking over this wide receiver, like people are kind of downplaying this wide receiver class, is because there's not many true number one guys
Yeah,
that you can their passing game with, but there's a bunch of role players that are really good at what they do.
there are definitely some guys that'll help you out in terms of like size and speed in this class. But I agree with you. It's more like you're more looking to add to a committee than like drafting a DK or a Deebo or a Davante Adams or Tyreek Hill. You're just looking for someone to kind of help solidify that offensive talent that you have and build around the pieces that you have. So I think that for Atlanta, who has a serviceable quarterback for this year, but has no clear wide receiver one right now, I think that's a great pick.
Serviceable in air quotes, Marcus Mariota.
Hey, you know what? I'm
It's a body.
yeah, it's better than Drew Lock. It's fine. Anyway,
I do agree he's better than Drew Lock. Okay, now you're on the clock with Atlanta at 9.
Seattle at 9.
Seattle at 9, sorry.
No, you're good. I think Seattle is in another interesting position. I think that Seattle understands that they probably do want to grab a quarterback. Um, I think that Pete Carroll really likes Matt Corral, but I think they're going to wait until the second round to draft him. Um, I think that they're understanding that they are in a full rebuild. That division is brutal on their side. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they're probably going to go somewhere more in like the edge or corner category. And if we're looking at the available players with the two top edges being taken off the board,
Mm-hmm.
um, they could go with Karl Loftus or Trayvon Walker, and I think that they're great. I don't think that you could really go wrong in that department, but I think that they might go in the direction of Trent McDuffie here.
Ooh, go corner, go outside corner,
hmm
go with see, I see.
Help solidify that defense a little bit, understanding that you got rid of all of those defensive pieces that made up the Legion of Boom, but kind of hoping to get back to that, uh, not that caliber, because I don't think you're going to find that caliber of
Yeah.
class in the next couple of years, but just kind of help rebuild that defense that needs some help.
Yeah, and had a really good year this past year. He was a sophomore. He only allowed 16 catches on 36 targets for 111 yards this year,
hmm
no touchdowns.
Yep.
So he had himself a good final year there at Washington. I guy that gives you some versatility. and playing the slot, playing the outside. I saw a comparison today with him and Jair Alexander, and if
Mm,
he hit that top end,
hmm.
man, Seattle would be loving that pick.
For sure.
I, I love I love for some of these teams that are bad for them not to plug in a quarterback
Yeah.
because I don't like the idea of trying to bring in my franchise's savior while the house is on fire.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Well, I also think that if you're picking so early on in the draft, or like somewhere in the middle of the draft, understanding that like the teams that are towards the end of the draft, like the Kansas Cities, like the Cincinnati's, like the Rams, teams like that, you're not going to be drafting a quarterback. And a lot of teams like in the middle rounds, they don't have like an urgent need for quarterback. So I think that understanding that you could wait until the second round, maybe even the third round, to get some of those quarterbacks that you're eyeing is important to understand for some of these teams.
And honestly, it just helps when you actually have a good roster in general.
Hmm.
I feel like the development is just so much faster.
Well, we
Like you
saw.
can see with like Patrick Mahomes, his development, like that.
Hmm.
You guys had a team around him when he finally was able to start.
Yeah, and he got to sit behind Alex Smith, who was a consistent playoffs quarterback every year. But he was that difference maker. It was just the step between like a playoffs quarterback and a champion quarterback. That was really what helped our team. And with some of these teams, like if you look at the Jags, it's like you bring in an amazing quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and you still end up with the first overall pick because you don't have that depth. Even though you have the better of the two Josh Allen's on your team. I'm just kidding, by the way. I think he's fantastic, but I think the quarterback Josh Allen is definitely better.
Oh, yeah, just because, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that like a defensive lineman like is just not as valuable as a quarterback.
Yeah. But just understanding that you need those positions to be filled in for you to have a team, not just a quarterback. That's super
Yeah.
important.
Okay. And now a team that hopefully has their franchise quarterback with the Jets with Zach Wilson. I'm gonna get him some help with this pick at 10 overall. I'm taking Jamison Williams
Damn. Okay.
from Alabama, wide receiver, really explosive guy, 6'1", about 190,
Hmm.
so fast, and knows how to use his acceleration, change gear,
Hmm.
just throw corners off. We saw it in the games against Georgia, even like the game against Georgia during the regular season.
Yeah.
He got behind world class athletes,
Yeah.
like world class athletes, and he just moves different. I believe in him after the ACL surgery. I
Hmm.
think he's good after the ACL surgery. He's already on pace to be able to play and be a factor this season.
Yeah.
I
I think he's a unique pick because he doesn't quite have like the size of like the Julio or the Mike Evans. He doesn't quite have that like that stretch, but he's not small by any standard. He can definitely help you in the contested catch. He's quick enough to be able to break free. I think that's a really great pick for a Jets team that's obviously rebuilding in a division that's oppressed them for 20 years.
yeah, and imagine Jameson Williams and Elijah Moore just being able to blow the top off of defenses.
And Michael Carter in the backfield, and they got
Corey Davis
Corey
is still
Davis.
there.
Yep,
And they
and
just signed up
yeah,
From the Bengals,
Bengals.
their
Yep.
former.
So I think that's a really great pick for them. I think that'll really help with their offensive rebuild. Like we were talking about earlier, I think they already had some great pieces on defense, and with them grabbing Derek Stingley earlier, that gives them the help at corner that they need. So I think that's a fantastic pick at 10.
All right, buddy, you're on the board. Washington Commanders, 11.
Oof, certainly am on the board. Commanders are,
Bad.
yeah. Um, there is a lot that they could use help with. Um, kind of understanding where you're at as the Commanders, you're probably the worst team in the division. Um, you have some amazing skill players. They just really haven't been able to pull it together. That defense has been so disappointing. Um, the offense just hasn't been capable of producing at a level that they should be. And I mean, Yeah, they could use some help in on both sides of the ball for sure. Um, they could definitely use some help on the line. Um,
On the offensive line, at least. The
yeah,
defensive
yeah, yeah, yeah.
line is probably the best defensive line in the NFL. He's,
Uh, no, they definitely have the upside to be. They just really haven't pulled it together. I'm
he's
trying to
not last.
think. Guard center. Those are probably the two that they could use the most.
Ooh, so that brings up an interesting point. Are you going to go for need or are you going to go for best player available,
That's what I'm
regardless?
thinking right now. Oh man, that's a tough one. Uh, yeah, they're just in kind of that awkward spot, dude, where it's like, what would benefit them the most? Um, Let me check this real quick. Sorry, give me 1 second. Um, Looking at available players real quick. What do you think about Tyler Linderbaum here?
It is your pick, and I have no issue with a Pro Bowl center going at 11.
I think that's definitely a hot take there. I think that Washington really needs to solidify that line. I don't know what your plans are going forward with quarterback. I really don't know. I don't think you need that much help with receiver.
They
I think they could
don't.
really use help rebuilding everything again outside of the defensive line. So yeah,
All right. It sounds like it's Tyler Linderbaum from Iowa,
yep,
center to the Washington Commanders. All right, you're on the board again at 12.
yeah.
The New
So
York
this
Giants
is the Giants again.
again.
We helped address that offensive line with Evan Neal earlier in the draft. Um,
Yep.
I think that the Giants can really still use help on the defensive front. I think that they have some great skill position players on defense. I think that they're a few steps away from being a really good team. Um, I actually really, really like Trayvon Walker here.
Trayvon Walker, edge, Georgia. To the New York Giants. Get yourself a player that can play on the inside and outside. Great athlete, very raw.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much pass rushing production yet, but they are really hoping that he can end up being like Janelle Hunter was coming out of LSU a couple of years ago, and
I
they
think,
developed into a good player.
yeah, I think he has the potential for that development. And I think that with a team that has those young pieces, um, I think that looking for that player that you can kind of help develop and work into your system would be better for them than like George Karlaftis or Jermaine Johnson. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're great picks, but I think that just having someone that you can kind of fit into your own culture and kind of build your culture around that new pick, I think that'll really help.
Mm-hmm. All right, buddy. And now you're so this is gonna be really awkward for you
Yeah.
because you're probably clocking up for the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
Since you are your first pick, we're just gonna keep it for continuity's sake. Um, so what are you thinking?
So I had the Texans draft Kayvon Thibodeau at 3 overall, and they're drafting again at 13. Um, Again, they could really use help at every position. Um, I think it wouldn't be such a bad idea for them to take Charles Cross.
Yeah.
I think just going with ADP, it's really not a bad pick. I think they could also go with Kyle Hamilton. I'm really surprised he's still on the board at this point. But I think just taking Charles Cross would really help them solidify um, that line a little bit better.
Or, and also, either you have a bookend to play opposite of Laramie Tunsil,
Hmm.
or you have the replacement for Laramie Tunsil who sat out last season because he didn't want to play.
Yeah. And
Um,
when you're going through that full rebuild, when you have so many first round picks like upcoming in the future, like
you could. Honestly, I would trade Laramie Tunsil. If that was the scenario for me for the Texans, I'm trading Laramie Tunsil right
Yep.
after the draft, first round pick.
Yep. See what you can get.
I'm I'm trying to see if I can get his replacement. If not, I'm gonna see if I can get him to play for us again.
Yeah.
Um, I love the pick, Charles Cross. A lot of people have him even as their number one player in this draft, so it'd be awesome if Houston could get him all the way down at 13.
Yeah, I think the new
Which is
culture
possible.
coming in too, the new culture with the new head coach with Lovey, I think
Uh,
I think it'll be good.
Lovey's gonna love seeing all the cover two come back in the league. He's gotta love it. So I'm gonna stop his fall right now. This franchise has seen amazing safety play before,
Hmm.
and they would love if Kyle Hamilton fell all the way to 14 to him.
Nice, nice.
Player that can just play all around the defense for him and just very instinctful. Honestly, I don't think his testing is really as bad as it seems.
No.
And the way he plays the game, he doesn't need raw speed.
Hmm.
So I'm not very worried about Kyle Hamilton.
No, I love that
So
pick. I love the Ravens definitely have needed help in their secondary. He's a flexible guy. I think that he's able to cover zone and blitz, so I think that will really, really help out.
and
Um,
he can play deep third. He can play as a two high. He can
mhm.
be in the box as a linebacker. He has a lot of things he can do. He's a very good scheme versatile player.
And you have a brilliant head coach and a brilliant defensive coach, so I think that's a fantastic pick. I
Yeah.
love that.
And now we agree that I would do both the Eagles
Hmm.
picks. I am on the clock again at number 15, and I'm gonna go with Drake London, wide receiver, USC. Great jump ball specialist. Played with bad quarterbacks at USC,
Hmm.
and hopefully can play with the best quarterback that he has with Jalen Hurts and put on a show. In like 8 games last year, he put up like 1,000 yards receiving. He
Yeah.
was averaging over 100 yards every game. Was his average. Like there was a couple games where he only had like 90 or he had a little bit less, but there was games that he blew up too. Like he can win at all parts of the field, and he has like a less than 4% drop rate. He has great hands.
Yeah,
And
he's 6'5". He's definitely gonna help in that contested catch area. Um, he's pretty
he's
fast too. I don't know what his 40 time was, but
he didn't run a 40 time because he didn't finish the season because he had an
oh
ankle injury.
yeah.
Ran a 40. So we're going on GPS times and watching burn people in the Pac-12.
Well, his field speed was
Was
not
well.
lightning fast, but for how tall you are, it's definitely serviceable.
If he runs like a 4.6
Yeah,
40,
that's exactly what
good
I was
enough.
thinking. Absolutely.
Even a 4.7, I don't give a fuck. Like he's like, the way he wins, like I don't care.
I
Like he doesn't need to be like I don't need him returning kicks.
yeah. With the
Like that.
Eagles, if they are planning on moving forward with Jalen Hurts, that's a fantastic pick. And if they're not planning on moving forward with Jalen Hurts, regardless of where you're at, that's a great. I mean, that's going to help out any quarterback that you have, or bring in having some guy that is basically a tight end at receiver. Um, it's not like horribly slow, but just the ability to make those contested catches and um, yeah, I just having that presence on the field is going to be a threat to anyone. So I think that's a fantastic pick. I think it's going to help the Eagles regardless of what they do with the quarterback in the
In the
future.
red zone, even the red zone, having
Hmm.
another guy outside Dallas Goddard that can be a jump ball guy down there. And now you're on the clock, my friend. New Orleans Saints. You're gonna be picking both of their picks for us.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the Saints. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Saints are in another unique position because um,
Not
you
too
have a
many needs.
well, you have a quarterback coming back off of injury, and I guess it's kind of a question of what do you want to address immediately versus what do you want to address for the future. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and in terms of this draft class, obviously, like we were talking about earlier, you have so many you have so many of those position players like edge, like linemen, like some of these really talented receivers that you definitely can go with. But in terms of like the receivers and the quarterbacks, you don't have like the number one options that a lot of people would use their first round picks on. I think that going forward, it's definitely important for the Saints to consider taking a quarterback. But you have a few picks here. You have a couple picks as the Saints. Um, the receivers are kind of going off the board. I think it would be great. You have Michael Thomas coming back off of an injury, and who knows what else was going on. I think that taking Chris Olave here would be great. Michael Thomas is great for consistent catches. He's really great for those slant routes. Going to get you consistent yardage. You have a serviceable tight end for sure. I think he's talented. I don't know that I would call him elite. But I think that just pairing up somebody on the other side of Michael Thomas and just having somebody that can give you more of that deep threat is great for Chris Olave.
Oh yeah, Chris Olave, Ohio State wide receiver, amazing route runner, great finesse guy. Not much of a yak guy, not
Mhm.
too many yards after the catch, but hey, maybe if you're getting paid more money, then maybe you take some shots over the middle and get some yak opportunities.
I think that's kind of the role that Michael Thomas is going to be more in. I think he's going to be getting those slants and drawing coverage more towards the middle. So I think it's going to open Olave up because, like you said, I agree.
Thomas is lineman. Okay, I think Michael Thomas and Juju Smith-Schuster kind of. Well, I think it actually started with Marcus Colston even a couple years ago.
Hmm.
A trend of a different style of NFL player that we're starting to see get more popular now.
Hmm.
Almost, I saw it referred to by Nate Tice as a power slot,
Okay.
essentially big-bodied slot receiver,
Yeah.
like 6'2" to like 6'5" slot guys,
Hmm.
which I kind of like it. Kind of like they're kind of trying to take advantage of like a matchup with like a smaller, shiftier slot corner.
Yeah.
The slot corners need to be more shifty because receivers have a two-way go.
Yeah. I think the thing that I appreciate is that now, if you have that ability, I mean, you have Kamara, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a quarterback who obviously, as we've
Hopefully, Kamara.
seen from the 30-30 seasons, not afraid to take risk.
Mm-hmm.
30-30 season, not seasons. But with Jameis, you don't exactly know. He started off last year great. He got injured earlier on than you can say that he made a lot of progress in terms of not turning over the ball as much. I
It
loved
was
what I
fourth
saw out
quarter
of him.
when he played.
Huh?
It was just not even half a season though.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think that that's kind of the major culture change here is Breeze, as he got older, was much more afraid to throw the ball downfield. You have Kamara, who is one of the shiftiest and best running backs in the league. You have Michael Thomas, who was one of the best like slot receivers in the league. I think just having that option to kind of open up the field with an elite route runner and having those other threats on the field, I think that's really going to help their offense.
Yeah, I think so too. Just having someone that can just draw coverage away and that can win in that deep part of the field is going to be huge for the Saints.
Yep.
Get more wide open lanes for like you're saying Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara.
Hmm.
And now you are on the clock for the LA Chargers, my friend.
The Chargers are, AFC West. We got we got
And
the
now
dangerous division here.
a little bit of bias here.
So, again, it kind of depends on what direction the Chargers want to go. I think they have a lot of talent on offense. I think they've brought back some of those players that are really talented. I think that they've helped solidify their defense a little bit, but I think that what they really need to do is they need to help that secondary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I see Andrew Booth Jr. still available on the board, and I love Kair, but I think I'm going to take Andrew Booth Jr. here.
Andrew Booth Jr. Has very fluid hips. He played really well against George Pickens
Hmm.
against Georgia the first week of the college football season. I I like Andrew Booth Jr. I think he's a very good corner. I actually saw a guy on Twitter that had him as his number one corner, which was kind of fun.
Wow.
I've only seen it by one person, just
Yeah.
that one man.
Well,
But see,
everybody's opinion is something.
exactly. Um, So now I'm on the board with the Eagles.
Yep.
You took Chris Olave.
Hmm.
Fine. I will recover one day. So I'm back here with the Eagles, and I am. I'm just really racking my brain where I'm going to go here. I was not expecting. I wasn't expecting Chris Olave to the Saints there,
Yeah. Hey man,
but
it was
that
thought it was a good fit.
is not in many draft classes. George Kalafdis is not going to fall this far. I'm going to
Yeah.
draft him right for the Eagles. Get someone to really start like developing behind Brandon Graham as he starts to slow down his career.
Yeah.
Really D line of strength for this Eagles team going forward.
I love that pick. Um, yeah.
And it's EPA, best player available at
Oh,
that
for
point.
sure. Yeah, without question. Yeah, they could definitely. I think they're in kind of a similar situation to the Vikings. I don't think it's as bad, where your players are starting to age on that line, and you could definitely use some help. I mean, even if you're bringing them in to sit a year or just to like take some reps and start learning the culture and the role that they need to fill. Um, I think it's great. I think that drafting ADP there, even if it's not like your most immediate need, I think that's a really good smart play for them.
Mm.
So
All right,
next
bro.
up is yeah, Saints again at 19. So I took Chris Olave for the Saints
Yeah.
with the last pick. Um, I think this could be another situation where you could draft ADP, um, and I think it really depends again on where the Saints want to go. Uh, Going forward in the future, you're probably going to need another quarterback. We're not really sure Jameis's health or status. Um, there's some really good players available. Devin Lloyd's still available, N'Kobe Dean's still available, Bernard Raymond's still available, and I love Bernard Raymond here.
Um, Jordan Davis is still available.
Jordan Davis is still available, true. Hmm.
There's
I love Bernard Raymond though.
mhm. Part of the best offensive tackle duo in the NFL, not in the NFL,
Yeah.
but all this past season.
Coming out of Central, I think I'm gonna go Bernard Raymond here.
Raymond.
Yeah, I think that helps solidify their defense. They have some great defensive players. Um, I know they lost one of their most valuable players um, on the defensive side. He retired this year, but
Yeah, Malcolm Jenkins retired this
yeah,
season. That was definitely a blow for him. And then they lost, but they also lost Marcus Johnson to the Ravens.
yeah,
It just happens,
yeah.
It's really bad about the cap. So I don't feel bad for the Saints because they played very fast and loose with the cap the past
Hmm.
couple of years. And everyone needs to see an example that the cap is not an illusion, that it
Yeah,
is real.
and they've been great at kind of manipulating it and making it work to like have a serviceable team. And they have enough skilled players that
Just trying to cash in on Brees' Super Bowl window,
yeah,
and expect for it. So I think if the Steelers are at this point, they're just running in this pick, and I'm gonna go Kenny Pickett from Pittsburgh.
yeah. I think
I'd agree.
that's their
They
best option for sure.
they get a quarterback that can compete with Mitchell Trubisky day one to
Hmm.
possibly start for him. Pittsburgh has had almost a weird tradition of drafting players from Pitt,
Hmm.
and it the small hands thing. He's played in the weather in Pittsburgh before.
Yeah,
Been able to deal with it beforehand.
I love the pick. I think it's great.
I think that's the direction the Steelers would go in if the draft fell this way.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Um,
And just the possible upside of cashing in on that quarterback is worthwhile,
yeah,
especially
it's a later first round pick too. Yeah,
how bad Big Ben was, especially the past couple of years, just sink in the Steelers team over and over again. All right, buddy, you are up with the New England Patriots at 21.
So, if the draft happens to fall this way, I think that we've seen the history of the Patriots and how they tend to draft. So I believe that if Devin Lloyd is still available at pick 21, there is not a question in my mind that they will snatch him. Um, Obviously, they've been a very defensive centric team. We've seen them play games with 3 passes attempted, you know. Um, so I think that if they have the opportunity to solidify that defense just a little bit more, uh, get some help on the line, I think that's definitely something they're going to go with. Obviously, Bill Belichick is a defensive-minded coach, so
He loves Packers.
yeah.
And also, a weird thing about Devin Lloyd is that he's an off-ball linebacker that occasionally lined up on the edge in
Hmm.
Utah's defense.
Yeah.
It threw backs against Arizona State this past season in one game, lined up on the edge.
Hmm.
He's almost like a Jamie Collins clone, 6'3",
Yes.
237. He's he's going to be moved around, and he's going to play a very similar role that Van Noy played this past season as well.
Hmm.
I like the pick, and it fits everything that New England usually does.
Thank you. Yeah, I know when we did our mock draft before and we kind of figured out how things fell, I chose to take N'Kobe Dean there, and you talked about the culture and the fit, and I think that with the way things fell this time with Devin Lloyd going to the Patriots, I think that he completely fits the culture and what they're trying to do. So, kind of sticking to more of that traditional rather than embracing like a new role. I think that's something that Bill Belichick and the Patriots are likely to do.
Yeah,
Next up is your team at 22.
yeah, my Packers. I'm gonna go with someone who just had a bad combine, but absolutely torched the SEC this year.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go by his GPS, like his GPS miles per hour. I think he hit like 21 or almost 22 miles per hour in a
Hmm.
game a couple of times. Going Traylon
I
Burks,
knew it.
uh, freak athlete,
Hmm.
big in the off season, goes wild boar hunting.
Yeah.
He's real South. He's from Arkansas, and I would love to have a guy that is that just tough and crazy on my team.
Yeah, I know that's when we've talked to in this offseason about like where we hope the draft will fall. I know Traylon Burks was one of your favorite receivers coming out of the draft. So
Yeah,
if he
and
manages to fall to your team, I think that's a great fit. I think that your team could definitely use some help
my
in receiver.
my comp for him is Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
I think he is very similar to Josh Gordon, to where he there's a limited route tree he runs,
Hmm.
but he runs it very well. And he's a bigger dude,
Hmm.
just like Josh Gordon was. But when he gets to speed, he is just fucking Mack truck,
Hmm.
just so fast.
Yeah, I love that pick. I think that's pretty ideal for the Packers at that position. I think that's one of the best that could fall to them. So congratulations if that is the case, and I love that pick.
Right now we're on the 23 Arizona Cardinals.
So the Cardinals again are one of those teams that obviously they had an unfortunate playoffs exit last year. They just kind of looked helpless. Um,
Yeah.
I think this is another one that you could definitely go on ADP, but it's also an area that they could definitely use help in. Um, I think I'm going to take Jordan Davis here.
Ooh, go get a nose tackle.
Hmm.
Nose tackle out of Georgia.
I think his size and just his physical prowess will really help. Um, I
And
yeah.
get JJ Watt, hopefully come back, get him some singled up blocks, help
Hmm.
up against the run game. I'm here for it. Collapse the pocket. Let's see. Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas. Yep.
Dallas. Oh, we love Jerry World. We love Jerry World. Okay. So Dallas, I'm gonna go Jermaine Johnson. They
Okay.
just lost Randy Gregory in free agency,
Hmm.
and I think Jermaine Johnson is a good edge player, good pass rusher, has good technique, can set the edge very well. And honestly, like Dallas doesn't have a bunch of needs. just go after the best, like go after a pass rusher, go after a player at a high value position
Mm.
that can hopefully make plays from you day one. Because that's what you need to do when you have that combination of Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott's contract. You
Yeah.
need to find ways to alleviate your cap room in other areas, and you know what? Pass rusher may be it. Jermaine Johnson could possibly be the replacement for DeMarcus Lawrence down the line.
Oh yeah, for sure. And when
Yeah,
when you have some of that young defensive talent, when you have Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons, I think that helping provide more pressure on that defense, just allowing those guys to get more value, I think that's a beautiful pick. I think that's pretty ideal for the Cowboys too. If he manages to fall that far, that's a great pick.
yeah, especially to also replace Randy Gregory.
Hmm.
All right, now on your Buffalo Bills, I love how many like Chiefs rivals you get.
Yeah. I think the Bills have one of the best rosters, really. I think that they definitely could add a receiver as a weapon here. I know Sky Moore's still available, but I think that they probably go in a little bit of a different direction. Um, I think that if the Bills really want to do something great here, they can't. Offensively, they were already matching with Kansas City, right? And they would probably be a pretty close comp for um, Cincinnati just because they have a better defensive front. They'd probably be able to help out shut down a little bit better. I think that they are one of the upper echelon teams in the AFC. I think they're one of the teams to beat this year. I think they need some help on the interior. I think Davante Wyatt still being available here is a great pick for the Buffalo Bills.
Ooh, get a good defensive tackle there to
Hmm.
pet Ed Oliver. I like it. I like it. And just keep building on the defensive line that they've been working on for a while now.
Yep.
Now I'm on the clock at 26 with the Tennessee Titans.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of different ways you can go with this. I'm I'm gonna go with Zion Johnson, guard out of
Nice.
Boston College. Give him a good interior lineman that can help and like keep Ryan Tannehill upright, not allow the pocket to collapse, but also give Derrick Henry some running room. The, that Titans offensive line
Hmm.
has been just okay. Imagine if Derrick Henry actually had a good offensive lineman around him, how much
Oh
all the damage he could
God,
do in the NFL.
yeah. Just having Derrick Henry be able to get up to speed before he gets to that line without having to worry about that collapsing on him.
Yeah,
I love Zion Johnson. He's not the tallest guy, but he definitely moves some weight. He's like 315, I believe.
yeah.
312. Yeah, he's 6'3", 312. He's super young too. He's 22 years old. He is going to be one of those guys that you can definitely develop. He can
Mm-hmm.
immediately step in and help you at that position. Um, and yeah, obviously any pick that's going to help Derrick Henry is a amazing pick for that team. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I think that's great.
All right. We're on to the team that the GOAT left and then the GOAT returned to, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. The Bucks. I think that the Bucks still have awesome offensive talent. Um,
Ah,
it really kind of depends on what you want to go for. Again, I think that the Bucks have amazing defensive talent. They brought back a lot of those guys. I think that they could use a little bit of help on the secondary, but I think most of all, if their secondary stays healthy, they should be pretty fine. Um, let me see what we have here. I think taking Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M wouldn't be a bad pick. I think that they could use some help at guard. Um, I think just providing some extra time and safety there would be a great move for the Bucks. Um, help improve the run game a little bit, and I I think that's probably overruling ADP. I think that would probably be the best pick for them.
and also, a little bit of added value that Kenyon Green gives you. He had 3 games this season where he had to play 3 different offensive line positions.
Hmm.
Like that kind of versatility on game day with the limited roster spots you have. If you have a guy that can start at guard or tackle, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think
That's
that he can start. I think that he might take a year to develop. And with Tom Brady, you don't know how much longer that you have. But I don't think
Mm.
that you can just, say that this year is the year that we need to win, because I think that you have that. You make it pretty deep in the playoffs with Tom Brady, right? I think with the offensive weapons you have, bringing back most of those guys, I think you're still going to have a lot of that talent, a lot of that help. So I think that getting a guy that will be good now, will be a decent starter now, but a guy that really has a chance to develop, especially with Todd Bowles right now instead of Bruce Arians. I think that'll be really helpful for their defense moving forward.
All right, so Kenyon Green, guard, Texas A&M.
Or
Now we're on
sorry,
to my
not their defense.
Packers.
Yeah, whatever. They're off.
Help their
Whatever.
offensive line. Help Tom Brady stay upright.
Yes. Yes.
Especially since Ali Marpet retired this season.
Yeah.
Like that's another big reason to go guard. So my Packers, I know I went Traylon Burks
Okay.
already,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna go wide receiver again,
Oh
just because
God.
we never go wide receiver in the first round,
True.
and I'm gonna go wide receiver. Happy. I'm going George Pickens. I
George
think George
Pickens.
Pickens is a great wide receiver in this class. I think he has great physical gifts. He can play in
Hmm.
the outside in the slot. He just straight up has just mossed and dominated kids since he like went to Georgia
Hmm.
as a freshman. He had a couple of injuries, so that and also there's some issues about maybe he's a hard player to coach,
Hmm.
but with the culture in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, I think if you put any wide receiver there that wants to be successful and wants to play,
Yeah.
I think they're going to develop, and I think they're going to be fine. And you've seen it during Aaron Rodgers staying in Green Bay. We have developed and had so many wide receivers
Hmm.
from when he first started, like starting with Greg Jennings to James Jones to Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson to Davante Adams to then MBS and Alan Lazard. Now, like he develops wide receivers around him. He makes these wide receivers better.
Hmm.
And I think if you got Traylon Burks and George Pickens, and you can start mixing them in with this offense,
Hmm.
especially early on in the season, we could start seeing some special results around playoff time.
Yeah. I think that I completely agree with you. I think that adding Traylon Burks and George Pickens would be really great for the Packers. Obviously, losing Davante Adams, questionably the best receiver in the league, is really, really going to hurt. Aaron Rodgers is a really accurate passer, regardless. I mean, we've seen what he's done with everything, and we've seen what he's done with nothing. And the numbers that he's going to put up, regardless, are going to be very impressive. But just adding those young pieces that, if you believe he's your guy moving forward, at least for the next few years, um, that's fantastic. Even if they take a little bit of time to develop, um, I think that you really couldn't go wrong there. I think that's a fantastic pick.
Yeah, and honestly, just watching Jamar Chase
Hmm.
just go off this year, I just want as many shots as a young stud wide receiver too, man.
Yeah.
Probably won't happen, but man, if either George Pickens or Traylon Burks can turn into like a legit top 5, top 10 wide receiver,
Hmm.
so worth it. But now speaking of team, the other reason why I took George Pickens is because the next team picking, and I know oh, I wanted a wide receiver before the turn
Yeah.
on the second round. And you guys are up next with 2 picks back to back for KC.
Yeah. Um. So Kansas City, we man, I a lot of receivers off the board. I think
Yeah.
it would definitely benefit us to draft a receiver. We have back-to-back picks here. I think that it's not bad to draft a receiver here. Sky Moore, if he falls down here, I think that's a great pick for us.
Mm-hmm.
Not a super big guy. I think he's like 5'10". He has a decent, like a 4'4", 40, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
Big
think.
wingspan for how tall he is, though. He
Oh
has a
yeah,
long,
yeah.
so he's long. He has length.
I think that just kind of helping to solidify our receiving core would be a really good option here. Um, I don't really have much to say about it. I think that he'd be a great pick, but yeah, I think that's kind of the direction we should probably go, is just adding a little bit of offensive help, because Buffalo matched us shot for shot last year. Uh, and if we're looking at some of the teams like Cincinnati, if we're looking at some of the teams like Denver that are just getting more talented, and yeah, we could probably use some help here. So I think Sky Moore is probably going to be the best overall pick for us at 29.
Sky Moore 29. All right, who you guys gonna pick at 30?
That is a good question.
Mhm.
I think we could definitely use help at corner, but it might not benefit us as much to. I love Kair. I don't know if it's a right pick for us. Um, hmm. I think he has great upside, great potential, and I think that if he fell this far, it wouldn't be a bad pick at all. But I know that we could also use some help on the defensive line. Let's see who's available still. Um, you know what? I think that probably it wouldn't be a terrible option to take Kair here. I think we could use some help at corner, even if we do end up re-signing someone in free agency. I think Kair out of Florida, I think he had a good year. I think he has a lot of potential for development, and we have some young guys coming in, so I think that he would be a great addition to our team.
All right, Kyer Elam, cornerback, Florida to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate that for you guys. Sky Moore and Kyer Elam
Mm-hmm.
got to start filling some needs there. I
Yeah.
like it. See Bengals. I'm so the Bengals. I'm always kind of torn about because at this point in the draft, there's no interior offensive linemen that
Yeah.
are worth drafting. That's kind of where their need is.
Yeah.
Uh, there's not really a tackle worth drafting here.
No.
I don't really believe in Trevor Penning,
Yeah.
and I'm typically not too fond of like reaching for players in the first round
Mm-hmm.
that aren't quarterbacks. I'm okay with doing it if it's a quarterback, just because like the value of the position that it brings makes it worth the risk.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking here is I'm looking to go outside the box,
Okay.
going completely outside of their needs, and I'm going with Jahan Dotson, wide
Wow.
receiver 8.
Damn.
I'm getting another I'm getting another wide receiver that can play inside or outside.
Yeah.
I know that eventually one of my other three wide receivers needs to be re-signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not going to do it because I just still need to re-sign Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Joey B, I think that he is going to be dedicated to Cincinnati. I think that he wants to succeed in Cincinnati. Um, but obviously that contract is going to be expensive.
And honestly, I I love Tyler Boyd. I think he's a great player. I think you can have a better player in Dotson here, who I'm shocked fell this far, but
Mm-hmm.
and possibly have a more explosive player here for far less money. You can maybe trade Tyler Boyd to try to get some draft picks, or you just rock with all four wide receivers because you know
You're unstoppable.
gap matters.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think that kind of overruling their needs here, just to draft like another offensive player, especially one that you're going to have on such a cheap contract when you have some big contracts that are going to be coming up. I think that's a fantastic pick. Um, Adding another receiver, the league is quaking in their boots because you saw what they did with three.
Yeah.
Um, I don't really think there's a tight end worth drafting. I think that really the only argument that you could have made for like offensive lineman would be like, mm,
Penning.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe Tyler Smith, but uh,
Yeah.
that's so I think that's a fantastic pick for you.
Yeah. I don't there he was the best option available.
Yeah, for sure.
Now we're to the Detroit Lions for the last pick of the draft,
Mm-hmm.
and I did this for our first draft that we did as well, and I'm just gonna do it again because I love the idea of them doing it. Desmond Ritter, quarterback Cincinnati. You get a quarterback that has great pocket awareness, has great throwing mechanics, has to improve on accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Needs to get better, get more consistent throwing the ball downfield. Needs to not look frantic, like not be frantic in the pocket when things aren't there. Like
Yeah.
actually go through your progression.
Mm-hmm.
When the first two reads aren't there, you need to keep going through it.
I
That
think,
is something I've seen.
yeah.
I think the pros outweigh the cons so much. The pocket presence is there. Like he knows how to move with his footwork and go up the pocket and escape out of the pocket as well.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a weak arm. He has like it's not great. It's not something to write home about, but it's good enough to make all the NFL throws. He's a great athlete.
I completely
You're
agree with
like,
you.
like the 4.4s, 4.5s, and we didn't see it this much this season because they were more of a scheme, like a more of a spread, like pass heavy system.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it more his first 2 years in college. He can run the football.
Yeah.
He can, he's not Malik Willis and like just breaking everybody, but he can run.
I'm almost surprised that you didn't take the
I
linebacker. I'm drawing it. Yeah.
took, I almost took Dean with the
Yeah.
last pick.
Yeah. N'Kobe Dean.
I was very tempted to take Dean. I The only reason I didn't is just fifth year option if Desmond Ritter hits
Mm-hmm.
is just such a better bargain
Yeah, for sure.
than having to pay the franchise tag.
Yeah. And
You get
you're gonna want to move on from Goff, but having Desmond Ritter sit behind Goff, who has been a quarterback that's made the Pro Bowl, made a Super Bowl, um, and been a playoff caliber quarterback in his career so far. Granted, he was surrounded by talent on the offense and defense, but not to knock on Goff too much. I think that that's a fantastic pick. Obviously, that's going to be a dirt cheap contract. You're going to be able to get him on that fifth year. Um, I agree with you. I think he has the best footwork in the pocket in the draft. I think that's really, really good. I think they would be very lucky if he fell. Um, I'm almost surprised that we only had three quarterbacks in our first round on this go round.
Yeah, I think we got a little bit more conservative
Hmm.
quarterback this time.
I think it's more
Just
realistic though.
I think it is more realistic. I I think a lot of the hype with Kenny Pickett is kind of slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's like I remember it was getting so hyped up that it was like maybe Kenny Pickett to the Lions at one point,
Hmm.
which I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah, I can't really see that either. I mean, maybe at 32, but I think that Desmond Ritter is probably a better option long term. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I think
yeah,
that Pittsburgh will probably yoink Kenny Pickett at 20. I think that's probably their best option. If for any reason he were to fall, I don't think he would be a terrible pick. I think Desmond Ritter could be a good fit in Pittsburgh, but I mean,
the
they'd probably
only
take the guy from Pitt, Kenny Pickett.
yeah the like if Kenny Pickett, it's really funny because I feel like there's little runs where he could get drafted, and then there's little runs where there's no chance of him being drafted.
Hmm.
Like if he would have made it past the Steelers there,
Yeah,
he wouldn't have gotten picked up again until about 26 for the Titans.
yeah, for sure. And even then, yeah, I mean maybe. Nah,
But,
they probably would have, but yeah, I agree with you.
but guys, this was our last minute mock draft before the draft.
just
I
to
hope
uh, just to run it back through one more time with the first overall, we have Aiden Hutchinson to Jacksonville, Sauce Gardner to Detroit, Kayvon Thibodeau to the Texans, Derek Stingley Jr. to the Jets. We have the Vikings trading up to number 5, the New York Giants pick. They're taking Malik Willis. Um, Ike Ekwonu at 6 overall to Carolina. Evan Neal at 7 overall to the Giants. Garrett Wilson at 8 overall to the Falcons. Trent McDuffie, 9 overall to the Seahawks. Jamison Williams, 10 overall to the Jets. Tyler Linderbaum at 11 overall to the Commanders. Trayvon Walker at 12 overall. That was the pick that was swapped, New York and Minnesota. So Trayvon Walker, 12th overall. Charles Cross at 13 going to the Texans. Kyle Hamilton at 14 going to the Ravens. Love that pick, by the way. Drake
Mhm.
London at 15 to the Eagles. Chris Olave, 16 to the Saints. Andrew Booth Jr., 17 to the Chargers. George Karlaftis to the Eagles. Bernard Raymond to the Saints at 19. Kenny Pickett at 20 for the Steelers. Devin Lloyd to the Patriots at 21. Traylon Burks to the Packers at 22. Jordan Davis to the Cardinals at 23. At 24, Jermaine Johnson going to the Cowboys. Devontae Wyatt going to the Bills at 25. 26, Zion Johnson to the Titans. 27, Kenyon Green to the Buccaneers. 28th, George Pickens going to the Green Bay Packers. 29, Sky Moore going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Kyer Elam going at 30 to the Chiefs. Jahan Dotson at 31 to the Bengals. And Desmond Ritter at 32 to the Lions. Three
Mhm.
quarterbacks in our first round. I think that's incredibly realistic. I
Yeah.
think that the majority of teams address their needs rather than just addressing the best player for the situation. Um, I really love how this draft turned out. I think that our first draft was great, but I think that this one's probably a lot more realistic.
Yeah. And also, I feel like a lot more teams are going to go more towards need with this draft class
Mm-hmm.
because the talent level of this draft class seems like it's all lumped together.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not that big of a drop off between, like, in level of how good the player is between Garrett Wilson and Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of really talented guys, and I think the main part is you're not drafting for most of these teams. You're not drafting a quarterback. You're not drafting a running back. We didn't even have a running back go in the first round. Um,
No, they
Receivers, there's definitely some depth, but again, we didn't have a receiver picked before eighth, and that's just because the Falcons don't really have one. Um, so I think that a lot of teams address their needs here. I think that this is definitely something that could happen. This is definitely somewhat realistic. Um, I love the way that our draft turned out. I think that we both made pretty decent picks. Um, I had a lot of fun. This is a great mock draft.
and thank everyone for coming to part 2 of our off-season YouTube. And we will be back. We're gonna be doing a post-draft show sometime
Yeah.
early next week.
Hmm.
So I hope everyone is ready for it. And we're all. I know me and Brett are both very excited for the draft Thursday.
I'm so hyped. I think that we could end up seeing like some team panic and trade up for a quarterback. I think that's probably bound to happen. It usually does. Hey, if we called the Minnesota draft pick, I mean, you guys have to let us know that we were right.
Yep.
We definitely deserve some gloating rights on Twitter if you called that.
If you do, on so I honestly really do believe Minnesota is going to trade up from Malik Willis.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm just going to tell you a bet I made. Take it as you will, or don't take it as you will. I put a bet down on FanDuel. Let me load up my FanDuel because you have to log in to several things
Yeah.
because they want to make sure gambling addicts jump through multiple hoops
Yeah.
for the crack.
If you are gambling on draft or on anything, please gamble responsibly and uh, good luck.
Yep. So I took the bet of the Minnesota Vikings being the team to draft Malik Willis.
Hmm.
I took this wager on FanDuel with at plus 5,000 odds for $5, payout 255.
Hmm.
So not terrible. I also took a different one of Minnesota drafting the first quarterback in this draft class at plus 3,400. So, not terrible odds if you want to maybe run the risk of Minnesota trading up to do this.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do bet even a small amount, you could still get a solid payoff from it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, if you just want to
And
throw $5 on it, if you got $5 to spare,
yeah, if you have $5 to spare, that's about how much I believed in Chris Olave being the first wide receiver taken as well. But less about my gambling and more about all of you. And thank you for
thank you
coming
for
to our.
yeah spending your time with us and listening to us and our thoughts and opinions. If you guys have anything different that you want us to talk about or think about, feel more than free to leave them in the comments. I will definitely link our Discord in the description. It should already be linked to the YouTube, but if you guys want to join and talk to us about anything, if you have any thoughts that you think that we should know about, if you have anything that you want us to discuss, or if you just think that we're wrong, feel more than free to tell us, and we'll be happy to dispute it.
Yep. And reach out to our Twitter before Elon silences it.
Got the handle up there in the top left at Pitch Pass Pod on Twitter. We also have a TikTok account that we'll probably start posting on probably sometime during the season, but we might post some film analysis, some stuff in the off season. We'll see what happens. Um, yeah, feel free to check us out on Twitter. Join the Discord, link in the description. Uh, Thanks for spending time with us, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck in your mock drafts. Good luck in your fantasy drafts if those are coming up. Uh, and good luck to your teams.
Yeah.
All right, peace out.